in the spirit of Christmas and families and reunions, here's why we're here. Because you have a really wonderful, wonderful story to tell. And, we were introduced by Jess Vu. Shout out to Jess Vu. And your story actually was on Subtle Viet Traits and was on all of these places that I actually followed way before Jess introduced you and me.
Yeah, right.
So here we are.
Shout out to Jess Vu. She's like the who's who of like the Vietnamese American community. Like she's always like throwing events. She's always getting people connected. Right. She's so generous with the time. Thanks, Jess. But like, she's been a friend of mine for like a few years.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like none of my family ever knew anything about Vietnamese culture, because my dad didn't know.
Yeah.
Brother, sister, they got no time to kind of do it. I've just, like I said, I'm the most kind of privileged, so I've had the most time to kind of be like, oh, where do I come from? What's my history?
All right. Well, let's start with that, the history. Your father is Vietnamese.
Yeah. Last name is Lee.
Lee, L-E, or Lay.
Layman. Yeah,
Right?
I've been pronouncing my name wrong my whole life. I said Ross Lee, but it should actually be Lay.
Lay, yeah. Pronounced L-A-Y, right? I mean, that's the correct pronunciation for Vietnamese.
Exactly.
Ross Lay. So your father was Vietnamese.
He was born in like 1948.
Okay.
Right, to a merchant ship captain. That's my grandfather. And my merchant ship grandfather, he had a route from Saigon to Hong Kong. And so on one of the routes, he fell very ill. And in that 6 months period, that's where he met my grandmother. Right? My grandmother was from Hong Kong.
So your grandfather was Vietnamese?
Vietnamese.
Got it.
Sailor, merchant ship captain, right? And so, my father was pretty much born and raised in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Right? But he would go with my grandmother to visit my grandfather in Saigon. And it was on one of these trips that, his father was killed.
How was he killed?
He was hit by vehicles. It was a motor accident.
Man, and your dad was like, what, 5, you said?
Yeah, he was
around 5. And then, so what happens after that?
Well, the grandmother took the little boy and left to grow up in Hong Kong because, like, we didn't understand it at the time, but that was the choice that was made. She took my dad and just raised him by herself in Hong Kong.
Yeah, but if you think about it, there is no other choice. There's no other. What are you gonna do?
Because if she left him, she might not see him again. If she just left him with the in-laws and everyone, she might just go back by. These are the kind of things like my grandmother was so kind to me. She died in 91 at the age of like 63, 64. She was quite young.
Very young.
She was always so good to me, right? But like, who knew this woman had so many secrets? She lived a hard life being like a single mom, raising this kid, like the choices that she made. Then she got remarried. I'm sure it was difficult to kind of talk about the old family with the new husband kind of thing. She kept a lot of this stuff to herself.
So nobody like knew about it? Like,
I think some of my grandmother's family knew that my grandfather had a wife and kids. Like that was known.
Yeah. Here you are growing up your whole life thinking that, do you know that there's Vietnamese roots, or do you just know that the name is like, how much do you know?
Up until like 5 years ago, like my dad's raised by a single mom, so what that did to him. He was just like, I'll study my way above this poverty line. No one there to support him. So that's all he did, is just grow up
in Hong Kong. He grew up in Hong Kong, just studied.
Top of his class kind of thing, right? That's what he did to kind of, make sure my grandmother didn't have to worry as much. Just a very independent, didn't have much people skills, because all he did was study the books, right? But, that's the personality that developed for him,
And he didn't talk about Vietnam growing up or anything.
Nah, it's too painful for him. Anytime he'd pull out these pictures sometimes, like these old black and white pictures that my grandmother had kept.
Yeah.
But he couldn't look at them for too long. It was just too painful. Like all he knew is that his father. That's all I knew. His father died when he was 5. But
and did he know? Did he know where his father was from? Did he know?
No, he thought he was from Saigon. Turns out he wasn't. Right, he just thought he was from Saigon.
And he never went back to look for the roots of like,
no, he didn't.
Like to think about like, okay, who was my father and who did my father? He was a handsome man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, young captain. This guy spoke English, French, Vietnamese, and Cantonese. 1952.
But Vietnamese man.
Yeah, Vietnamese.
And so your
man.
dad never thought, like, let me go back and trace where I'm from or who my family is from.
Oh man, he was too selfless. He was too concerned with like making sure that mum had everything she needed, loving the kids as much as they could. Like he just didn't think about himself. He didn't think about himself. It's not until he's retired that he might have. Like I took an interest in the history. My brother and sister are a little bit different. Maybe me, I don't have wife and kids, so I'm a little bit more interested in the history. He showed me these pictures. I was like, who is this man?
Yeah. Hey, so when did you develop this interest to go and look for your father's family?
Well, I didn't actually. I never looked without like asking permission from my dad, but he would never talk about it. Only the last 5 years he'd pull out the picture, he'd tell me a few more details. My dad was killed when I was 5, and like we did what they did in 1953. They brought the body back to the house, and he saw his dad die. That's traumatic. Like he would never want to talk about that. He pull out these pictures, he would just cry, right? But then, just so happened that last year, I was getting burned out with my job in Hollywood. I was getting a little bit tired of the acting career and working in hospitality. I was just getting so burned out. I was like, you know what? I need to reset. I'm gonna go to Vietnam for a while. I want to eat some pho. I want to do some jiu-jitsu. I want to hang out there. And my parents heard that and they're like, oh, let us come to Hong Kong. Because they know Hong Kong, and they don't see me very often. So we'll meet you in Hong Kong before you go, and we just hang out. And so that's what they did. They followed me, and while we was there, like. Mum brought these pictures to Hong Kong, just because.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mum just brought these pictures, and we were just looking at them through Hong Kong, and I was like, Dad, I'm going to Vietnam. Like, do you want me to have a look? And for the first time in his life, he looks at me and he's like, yeah, go have a look. Go have a look. So I was racking my brain. I was like, what the hell? How do I write this? So I wrote a little something on subtle Viet traits. This is my dad. This is how he grew up. He grew up in Hong Kong. This is a story.
I read that. That was like how long ago? A few weeks ago, right?
It's like middle of October.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Hong Kong. I was like, I didn't expect to do this, Kenneth. This is like one of the major pictures. This is like my dad and one of his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad thought he only had one brother. He had 4 brothers.
Mm.
Right? My dad just didn't know this stuff. He was only 5. He never asked his mum. He didn't ask. Didn't have time.
No, that's your grandfather and a grandfather's brother.
Yes,
got it. Okay.
Right.
So that's your dad's uncle.
Yes.
Your dad's
my
dad
dad's uncle.
and your
Yes.
dad's uncle.
Yeah. And so, like when I posted on Subtle Viet Traits originally, had a lot of people reply saying, "Oh, it looks like your grandfather's well dressed. He seems well educated. Seems like he was a man of wealth, a man of knowledge, just little bits and pieces. Oh, this looks like it's in Dong Quoi Street in Saigon. Little clues. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe I can go back to Dong Quoi Street and get like a picture. Yeah. But then, I don't know why, Kenneth, but after about a week and a half, one of the people on Subtle Viet Traits, a DJ friend, now a friend, she was just like, you know what, why don't you post it on this Vietnamese Saigon website? Just try again. And I was like, I tried it once, But I was like, I'll just try one more time. Let me try one more time. So I rehashed the story. I told the same thing. I posted on the story, and I couldn't sleep that night. I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice if I could find him? I just went for a walk. 4 o'clock in the morning in Hong Kong. I just went for a walk, and I just felt something. I was just thinking, it wouldn't it be great if I could find him. And when I went back to the hotel room, there was a message from this man, Han Lee, right? And I don't know many Lees. Right, but this is message from this guy here.
I am your father cousin. How does he know that? That's the crazy thing. How does he know?
Because he saw these pictures. He saw these pictures and he was scrolling through he's like, that's my grandfather.
My name is Lei Den Hung. I am your father's cousin. We, the Lei family, have been looking for your father all of these years. I'm very happy and emotional to see your post. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I'm excited and waiting to hear from you. Sincerely, Lei Den Hung. My father is Lei Den Fung, brother of Lei Den Toai. My father's name is Toai, by the way.
Yeah, man.
This is crazy.
Right. And that it just goes to show how long they've been looking. They've responded within 4 hours. Right.
And how old is Hun?
He's about, I think he's 72.
Oh, shit.
A little bit younger than my dad.
God almighty.
But it's just one of those. My dad's such a selfless selfless guy, you know, and all those years, he always thought he was entirely alone, just with a single mum. You know, he's in boarding school in Hong Kong, and, you know, every weekend, all the families would come visit the kids. Sometimes grandma couldn't make it, right? So all the other boys, they all had families come visit him, and, you know, my dad was just by himself. That's what he thought his whole life, right? But it turns out, no, man, you had a whole family leaving a candle on for you. The whole family looking for you, and like, you know, it's just, but he just didn't know.
So it was just him and his mother growing up all these years.
Yeah. Well, until about the late 60s when my grandmother got remarried.
Right, but I'm saying within the context of his immediate family, there's only him and his mom.
Yeah.
What about any siblings, any of your grandmother's family in Hong Kong?
A little bit, but Dad wasn't great at like keeping in touch.
Yeah.
Dad wasn't great at keeping in touch. It's just not his. You know, he was so focused on like what he was doing, what he was studying, and just his mom.
So there's no family, basically.
Not much.
Yeah.
Not much. There's a few of like grandmother's cousins who are still alive that we just saw in Hong Kong. Just a few of them.
Yeah.
But like it was the Lei family that was like, they've been looking for this, you know, and
this little boy.
You can tell, like when my grandfather died, like his brothers, they mourned him. Like that family mourned him. He was young, smart, handsome, accomplished, you know, and he left behind like 2 kids, right? My dad didn't know about
The other
sister.
kid.
No,
Yeah,
know.
the older sister.
Didn't know at the time.
Okay, so once this man, your father's cousin, reaches out to you, what happens after that?
Oh, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, I couldn't believe the message. I was like, "That's my grandfather." It's like, oh my God, this is, you know, immediate. Like, I'm quite trusting. I'm like, okay, this seems right,
Legit, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like.
I mean, he pinpointed. I did the fucking confidence that he wrote back with. It's just
like that was you know, I still needed a little bit of convincing, but different people in the family need a little bit more convincing. My sister's a little bit more skeptical. She's a little bit more kind of reserved. It's like, make sure you know who they are. You know, make sure you see. You know, because you never know who these people are, even if you do make
probably
contact.
some people are looking for money, some connections.
You
Yeah,
you don't know. You know, but you know, I knocked on my father's hotel door. And I was like, hey, I found your family. And he's like, 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, what? And then Uncle Hung's like calling, and like he's like told the whole clan. He's told the family in Saigon. He's told the family in Wei. He's told the family in Melbourne. He's told the family in New York. He's like, we found Dinh Toi's son. We found this guy, right? And so all these leads are adding me onto the thing, and I'm just telling my dad, I'm like, yeah, this is happening, and he's just playing catch up. You know, this is an old Asian dad that doesn't show no emotion, that doesn't feel no feelings. It's not usual for him to be about him. It's about you. It's about what you feel. It's okay to feel, you know? And so it was just a big deal for him. But then it was up to me. I was like, well, I'm going over there, so I'm going to go hang out with the family.
Did you get him to go to, your dad to go to?
No, because Mum's like 70. Mum's like 75 there. So it's hard for them to kind of just make plans and just travel. They need to plan it out because, you know, old age, they got to make sure they travel efficiently, you know? So they're going to go in March. But I was the first one to kind of go over to Saigon and meet everybody, and went to Hanoi. But the family is actually from Hue. Didn't know that, right?
Everybody, all the brothers, your grandfathers.
Most of them started from Hue. And then moved out to Saigon. And
the originally Hue people, everybody,
yes,
the whole lineage.
Yeah, and then after the war, some of them left to go to the Garden Grove Vietnamese that we all know, right? So a lot of them are down there as well. Some of them are in Minnesota as well. But like,
can we go back to your grandmother? Your grandmother is from Hong Kong?
Yes.
What was she doing was she in Vietnam when?
No, she was in Hong Kong. Yeah, she's a Hong Kong nurse.
So the Hong Kong nurse and the ship captain meet in Hong Kong.
Yeah, because
he's a Vietnamese ship captain.
Yes.
And so your father was born in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong actually.
Hong Kong. So he's never really had a childhood in Vietnam.
None.
So he's just Vietnamese by blood.
Yeah.
And he's Vietnamese by blood, and he's got this massive family.
Yeah.
In Vietnam.
Yeah,
and after the war, this family spreads out to
everywhere.
And now we are in Garden Grove. We're in, you said, where else?
Some are in Minnesota. Some are in San Francisco. You know, it's like some of them are in Hue, some got as far as France. You know, but all with the last name Lei, and like they all knew the story. Like all these relatives, they all knew my story and my dad's story better than me. They're like, yeah, you're Le Dinh Toi's grandson, and you know, Le Dinh Toy had one son. It's your father. Like they all knew, and they're like, hey, it looked like him. You know, like they took me to all the memorials to pay respects. You know, and it was really special. Like I went to Vietnam just wanted to hang out, but then I just got like the local experience.
So did you ever think of yourself as Vietnamese growing up?
Yeah, just me though. For some reason, just me. My brother and sister, they, you know, born and raised in Australia. They just, you know, and my mum, she's from Hainan, so she never had it. Dad didn't know anything about it, so he didn't. But for some reason, for me, I enjoyed. I would always have this thing, Kenneth. In Australia, when I was young, old Vietnamese ladies would always stop me in the supermarket and just tap me on the shoulder, just complete strangers, and then, you're Vietnamese, right? And I'd be like, yeah, and they'd be like, right, just over the course of my life, they just look at my face and be like, you're Vietnamese, right? And I always found that so strange, but apparently I have a very Vietnamese face. And then when I went to Vietnam, it was the same thing, you know, like people just be like, you don't speak Vietnamese, but you look, right? And I always found that so curious.
You know, Vietnamese-ness or being Vietnamese comes in so many different shapes and sizes, you know? The stories that come to the surface are so varied, and it's just, you know, I don't think that there's any particular way of being Vietnamese. I don't think that there's any patterns anymore, because the beauty of having a 70-year-old man in Hong Kong, growing up in Hong Kong, being educated in Hong Kong, and then finally make it to Australia, and then having a son who is an actor who lands in Hollywood and LA and reconnects with the Vietnamese community. It's just such a beautiful story to me.
Thanks,
and,
man.
you know, you have all this family in Garden Grove, Minnesota, and all over the world that is Vietnamese. It's a family of Vietnamese people that you didn't really know until now.
It's pretty beautiful, man. I've always known like Vietnamese culture and Vietnamese families. They roll deep, man. They roll close.
They do.
This the tightness. The Vietnamese people, they see each other. They see each other very deeply, and I felt that when I went over there. Anytime
You don't think that exists in the Hong Kong culture for you? In your Hong Kong world?
I believe it does. I think Chinese and Vietnamese culture, it's not so far removed. It's not so far removed at all. But like, there's something about Vietnamese culture in particular. I just noticed that family. I feel that.
I wonder what that is.
I know.
Are you close with your siblings?
Yes. Yeah. Like mum's always instilled that in me.
Yeah.
I'm always close with, like, make the effort. Make the effort. I love being uncle. Maybe not dad yet, but like definitely the uncle vibes. I love doing that because I had good uncles.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And like I see, especially with this side of the family, like the way they welcomed me. They weren't just welcoming me, man. Like it was like the spirit of my grandfather walking through the door again. You know, because this guy got hit by a car in an accident. He never got a chance to say goodbye to anybody. Never got a chance to say goodbye to his family. So like when my father's sister met me, by the way that she held me, the way she hugged me, I could tell this was like some solace for her.
Tell me about that. Like, this is your father's only sister. This is your father's. This is your paternal aunt.
Yes, my paternal aunt. She's 77. She asked me to call her Ma Nhi instead of Ko Nhi. Because she says, you know, I think Ross he feels more like a son to me. He doesn't feel like a
Manh
Nhi. Yeah, her name's
Damn,
Nhi.
that's like mother,
right?
You know? But
yeah.
it's typical in Vietnamese culture to use that for your aunts.
Yeah.
You know, ma ba, ma bong, you know, like ma means mother, but it's like, it's really interesting. I never thought about that. So Go is like very, you know, aunt. You know.
Yeah.
I'm just like mother.
Just starting to learn the Vietnamese culture, man.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to it. Like here she is.
So where did she grow up?
She grew up in Hue.
She grew up in Hue.
She spent more time in Hue and then Saigon. But that's me at her house.
Wow, she's crying, man.
Yeah, man. But like she's, you know, we just had a bond very quickly.
Yeah.
You could tell that, you know, she just like my dad grew up without a father, right? And you could tell that like knowing that she had a brother out there was just like breaking her heart.
But she knew all these years?
She knew the whole time, man. right?
Yeah, it's
Where is
crazy, man.
But just spending time with her was just such a treat. You know, she was so warm to me. I told her I like mangoes, and she just filled the apartment with mangoes, man. And you know, now we're talking a lot. I send her messages, and she's so excited to meet my dad. And my dad, for the first time, he's like, in Cantonese, it's like big sister gaje. So he's running around to mum just saying, "Hey, I got a gaje." You know, like my dad's excited about something.
And he's never been to Vietnam?
He's been to Vietnam once. This fool's he goes over there in 2018. You know what he does? He's carrying around these pictures. He goes down to the hotel concierge.
Oh my God.
That's all he can do to think to kind of find his family. Like he never gave it a shot. He never tried. You know, but now it's like the last chance, just the last chance. I just send this out, and just the whole family's like, yeah, we're here. You know, like and like my grandfather's had four brothers, right? The youngest brother is Le Dinh Yip, right? He's the interesting one because he didn't have any kids for the longest time, so he kind of took it upon himself to be a father to Mani, and you know, like they were really close together, and they would bond together. They would be like, you know, what do you think Man Ching's doing now? You know, where do you think he is? Like that's how they would bond, right? And this man looked like my father just from like the bottom of his face. Like there's pictures here.
Yeah. And all these uncles have died already, huh?
This is Uncle Le Dinh Yip. So this is two of the brothers. This is the youngest brother. And if you look at the bottom of his face, you don't know my father, but this is exactly like my dad.
Yeah.
Like cookie cutter, right? And apparently his personality was quite similar too.
And he goes to Vietnam in 2018, and he tries to find. Yeah, that's like, what are you gonna do with that,
Like
right?
That's all he can think to do. He didn't have Facebook. He's not inclined to do that, right? So when I found everybody, I was just, you know, and it's so interesting watching a different side of my dad come out.
Yeah, yeah.
Because for the first time, he's excited about stuff. He's like, I get to teach my dad about something. You know, this is what your cousins are like. This cousin's the charming one. This one's the one that likes to have a drink. This one's the family historian, right? Because you know that they had so many brothers that like the last son of the oldest brother of all the uncles. He's like the family historian. He knows where all the Lees went. He knows which ones died, which years, where all the relatives are. He's got them all in the family tree. He's from Hue, right? And he knows like all the memorials. He knows where everyone's buried, and like, you know, you can see it's his job to pass it on to the next generation, all the information.
The beauty of what you've done is this to me, because I come from a really big family that don't care anymore. We don't care anymore. We don't, and I think with the advent of social media, everybody knows where everybody is, right? So we take it for granted. And I hope that people who are listening, you know, audience who are listening to this, hopefully we can pay attention more to our family this holiday season.
Oh man,
because it is, from where you're coming from somebody who didn't have that your whole life on your dad's side, right? I can't imagine missing my entire father's side, and then all of a sudden, you know,
they're so excited, Kenneth. Like they're just like kids again. They're just like kids again. When I was down in Garden Grove meeting with some of the uncles, I got on the phone and I said, I'm going to call my dad. And they're 75-year-old men. They're like crawling over my shoulders going, I want to be in the picture. Yeah. Hey, Lei Ma Jing, it's us. We're so excited to meet you. You know, they're just like little boys again. And I could see it in my dad, the way my dad smiles, you know.
So wait, does your aunt keep in touch with the Lei family?
Now they do. I mean, this is only over the last month. But
so wait, they didn't before?
My aunt?
Yeah, your dad's sister. She kept in touch with everybody, right? All her cousins.
Of course. They're all over there in Saigon. They're all together.
They're all together.
They're all banded together. Everyone's there except my dad. Everyone's there. They're all together. They all
around the world. They're all together.
Yeah, man.
Because they all kept in touch.
And they're all, you know, like that's what they did. That's that family.
Like a big
thing.
family, yeah.
Right. When I say that, like when Man Yi hugs me, that's just like you can tell. That's just like the way she breathes. She's just like, I'm so glad you're here. You know, and like some of the uncles, they all treat me differently. One of them, like all the men in the family are named Le Dinh Hung, Le Dinh Dat, Le Dinh Kat, right? But one of the uncles, Like this guy had 6 sons, right? 6 children, 5 sons
Yeah.
and a daughter, right? All the men are Ledin, but one of his sons is named Lekin Tao, right? And Lekin, I believe that's the creation of something, the start of something new, right? He was named by my grandfather before he died, and it brought him a lot of fortune. So he's a very charming guy. He's a very outgoing
And
guy.
he's still alive?
Yeah,
The
he's
Lei
very
Kin guy?
Yeah, Lekin Tao. He's very, very stylish kind of guy, and he attributes it all to the name. He's like, yes, your grandfather named me so. So he made an effort to make sure he was at the airport to pick me up.
In Vietnam.
Yeah, and you can tell the way he treats me. These guys don't treat me like a nephew. They treat me like their uncle.
The representation of their uncle, yeah.
They're like, oh, let me tell you about everything that's been going on in the Lee family. Like, this is what we did. This is what we've been doing. This is where we live. And, this is the house I live in. They're just so excited. It's that thing of like lost time. They're just trying to play catch up. They've been waiting for 70 years to have this moment to just, it's like me coming through the door is like my grandfather, just the ghost of him just saying, hey man, everything turned out okay. Like,
and then
son is okay.
And then when your dad comes back to Vietnam, that's going to be a fucking... You got to go in March too, right?
Oh man, like if I can get the time. Like,
why would you not? I mean, it's a big deal. You should bring a camera. You should like...
Oh man, I filmed a lot of the stuff this time around, and I know that my brother, like my brother and my sister, now they're on board. Now that they've kind of seen everyone, they've kind of seen links, they've seen all the photos, they've seen all the evidence, they've seen all the pictures of like I went to all the memorials in Hue, and my dad's name's up on the family trees.
No kidding.
Like his name's been sitting up on the family tree for decades. I had to show my dad. It's like, hey, listen, like these people have been keeping a candle on for you. Like all the children, like I'm 12th generation Lee. My dad's 11th generation. My grandfather's the 10th generation. Even the 13th generation, even like the kids in like Garden Grove, they all know my story. They're like, oh, your uncle Ledin Toi's grandson. Like they all know the story. Right, and I was like, damn, like that. I understand, like what these uncles did. Like they all told their kids, you find this man, you find his Lei Man Jing, you find him. They had pictures of him.
I bet, with your grandfather's position, I think maybe his father were probably like imperial sort of advisors.
Yeah.
Because Hue is the imperial city, and a lot of the people with certain sort of pedigree that came from that area were people who were advising the king and came from that area. So I bet you if you dig deep enough, because normal people don't keep track of their ancestry, right?
Yeah, but these people did.
They did because of
they absolutely
the royalty or the bloodlines that they kept. They kept records of their family.
Where is it? There's a great picture of my grandfather here. And he's, my great-grandfather, actually. And he is straight up wearing a medal from the king. He's dressed in, like, silk garments. And that's people on, like, subtle Viet traits told me this one.
Yeah, and that's typically a sign of nobility of those years.
Yes. So it was like a seismic event when this young man passed. I can't find it right now.
Yeah, it's... Amazing how that, amazing how this has turned out for you, man. So now, I mean, what does it do to your identity? What does it do to who you are and how you view yourself? Does it change at all?
I gotta go live in Vietnam for a while. I gotta go learn some Vietnamese. I want to spend time there. I that's why I spent a month there. But now that I've been there, I got family there, and they're all just like, yeah, just come back. I was like, it just like when I was eating the $1 bowl of pho and the $1 bowl of banh mi's, like I was questioning my life choices. Questioning my life choices when the broth of the pho, everything you ate was $1. It's $1.
What about that stuff makes you question your life?
Oh, because I'm just like, I came back here and you're spending $10 on a smoothie, $8 for a coffee. I was just like, what am I doing in Los Angeles? It's like, I must really love what I'm doing. Like, it made me question, like, what I was doing. Because I was in Vietnam. I was like, I've got this family here. I could get a job here. I could teach English here. I could just hang out here. Because, being in Los Angeles, sometimes it can be a lot. Like, that's part of the burnout. I've been in Los Angeles for 14 years now, working on an acting career and also working hospitality. It's a very draining two draining professions, and I'm like an introverted kind of guy.
Oh, are you?
Oh yeah, man.
You're an introvert.
I would consider myself an introvert.
Wow, I would never think you're an introvert.
I just have to force myself into situations where, you know, I have to talk more, because otherwise I'd be like my dad, very quiet, very reserved. Right, you know, but my mum, luckily, she's a little bit more chatty. I get a little bit social skills from her.
Yeah, but you consider yourself as a natural introvert.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Shit.
But you know, once I was in Los Angeles as an actor, and I was going to like, you know, closing parties and like rap parties, and you have to talk to people. You have to learn how to be comfortable in these environments. So I forced myself to learn how to talk to people and be more personal.
What was that decision like in the early days to move to LA from Australia? What part of Australia are you from? Sydney. What was it like to go and make that decision to go like, fuck it, I'm gonna leave the comforts of Sydney to go to Vietnam, to go to LA?
I mean that was pretty much it, man. I was just doing what my parents told me. You know, go to engineering, go do business school, and
so you came here for school?
No, they asked me to do, like, I did that in Sydney. So I graduated with a business degree after doing engineering. You know, you just do what your parents tell you. I didn't think about it. But when I was like 24, 25, and I was like, I think I want to be an actor. You know, like my friends would tell me, they'd notice that anything that I ever did, presentations were always my strong point. Being able to talk in front of people, like, I could do that. For some reason, I could do that. Right? And they're like, Ross, maybe you should be an actor. And like, for the longest time, I had one friend that asked me, and I was like, I couldn't think of a good reason why not to do it. And I was like, I think I got to go give it a go. And I just went when I was like 26, and I quit my job. I left everything. I told, sorry, Mum, I'll be back in a year. That was the plan.
14 years later.
You know,
what's the hardest thing about living in LA as somebody who's not from here?
Just people. People can be nasty. You know, it can be a lot of energy vampires here. You know, when you're in Hollywood as well, you know, there's a level of kind of fickleness in the city, you know, and you feel that. And then you're in a city where everyone's kind of like go, 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 and capitalistic kind of, you know, and I'm part of it. I'm trying to be an actor too, but like when you're in that spot, sometimes it can be very draining spiritually and mentally, especially introvert. I got to spend my time kind of charging up so I can go out and be with people. Like, thank God I have hobbies that kind of force me out to talk to people, but you know, sometimes I don't like the people in Los Angeles.
It's a difficult place, yeah.
It can be.
It can be a difficult.
It can be. You know,
because you don't know. You don't know what people are thinking. You know, it's hard to gauge what people think. It's hard to understand what really goes on, right?
Oh man, I came back from Vietnam and I was too used to smiling at people.
Yeah.
You know, you say good morning to people, you say hi, Chambly Sang to people.
Fucking
you know?
just people are real.
Yeah, right. You say hi, and then I came back to Los Angeles. I think I smiled at someone in Ralph's. And she like scowled at me. I was like, "Hey," and she's like, "I was like, oh, sorry, I can't look people in the eye here and smile. I heaven forbid."
Sorry, I'm back in demon land.
Yeah, you know, I just noticed you have to have your guard back up. I realized that, like, damn, I got to put my guard back up. I was like, damn, that's exhausting, holding that up. I went from a month in Vietnam where everyone, man, I don't care what you do, I don't care how much money you got. It's just you're Ledin Toy's grandson. I'm so happy you're here. You know, we see you. You know, and I was just. Oh man, it made me really kind of question. It's like, man, maybe I want to spend some more time here.
Yeah.
But it's always those times when I'm just about to like, man, fuck this acting career. I don't want to do it. It's always in those times
that something happens.
That's when the phone rings, right? That's when my agent like gives me like a good audition. That's when I start getting some voice work, and I'm like, that's why I've been here so long, because I'm just
everybody says that just when you're about to quit.
Right. It's like a toxic relationship, man. Because like I've got just enough. Every year I've got just make enough money or just get on TV enough or get like there's enough here that it's like it's not hopeless. You know, I've got friends and I'm in the right circles where, you know, my friends are all booking like big major production. It's like, man, I'm here. I'm right here.
I'm almost
there.
I
know these people. I know these people that are booking these roles. I know these people that are working with Michelle Yeoh. I know these people who are on these Netflix shows. I'm like, man, I'm close. But, you know, I'm also, man, it's been 14 years. I'm getting old. I'm getting tired, man. Like, so there's a new generation coming in. There's a new generation of Asian American actors and artists that are like the new generation from me. I'm 40. So this new generation, they're like young, hungry, and don't have the chip on the shoulder that I do, right? I grew up in a different time, man. I grew up in straight white 90s in Australia, right? There's different Vietnam, different Asian representation on TV now, right? They grow up with different chip on their shoulder. They don't grow up with the kind of mad at stuff. They're just kind of like young, proud, and proud of their ethnicity, proud of their roots and stuff. And I see it in their eyes, and I'm like, it make me feel old, but I feel proud. I'm like, I got it for you guys, man. You proud of your roots. I took a long time to get that back. It was a long time. I didn't.
Going back to that thing about you and just when you're about to give up, the phone rings. I heard somewhere that Jeremy Renner, after the Hurt Locker, or before the Hurt Locker, he wanted to give up. He's like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna go back to I think it architecture or whatever he's in.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done. He got out, and then he got the call from the director to come audition, and he shot the film. And he's like, if I'm done after this, and then it ends up becoming an acclaimed movie with Oscars all over it, and it gave that revitalization to his career. And the thing about all of this shit is we don't know. We really don't know.
You never know. And
it's no different than going to the casino, man.
Don't tell me about that. Like, you mean, it's like you try explaining that to like a tiger mom, tiger dad. That's what you want to do with your life. Oh, mom and dad, like, they're pissed. They're pissed, right? That, like, even now, even at 40, they just want, well, you done yet? Like, come home. Like go to Vietnam and live now. Like, go get a job in Vietnam. Like the acting thing, that petrifies them.
But can you quantify or qualify when you look out into the world of acting and entertainment, why it isn't that we arrived? Is it a quantifiable, qualifiable thing? Or is it something that's like a black box? You just keep, like, how do you know if you're good? How do you know if you're...
The feedback meter in acting is very difficult. You don't get the call. You don't get the call unless you're the guy. You don't get someone telling you, oh, you did a good job. They're not going to call 100 actors that didn't get the role. Oh, you did good. No, it's just the guy that gets it. That's the feedback. You just hope that the stuff that you're putting out, you kind of check with your friends and like, what are you doing? If you're smart, you get together with the people that you're in competition with, and you say, oh, how did you go? What did you do? Like, and you work together as a group. Asian American actors, we're boys. We're all tied together.
Oh, no
we're in like a chat group together, right? We're like, like people who book stuff is like, oh, what did you read for? How did you read for it? Oh, what are they looking for? Like, we all talk together, right? And that's how you get better, because we're all just, as people of color, we're all just competing for the same one role, right? The representation's getting better. But like when one role comes in, they're gonna get all the guys to come in. I know who's gonna get called in if I get called in. I know the guys. I know Yoshi. I know James Tang. I know Kane Liu. Like these are names that I've been auditioning with them for 10 years. I know you. We go for coffee together. We go for burgers together. Yes, we know. And so once you get to that, you realize, oh, it's not competition. They're just pitted up against us because there's not many roles. These guys are not my competition. When they want James Tang, they will get James Tang. He is 6'2". There's no reason we should be going for the same roles. But they see us on the headshot. Oh, Asian guy, yeah, get him in. Right? But, now representation's getting a bit better. They're like, oh, there's a difference between, say, Tony Leung and Andy Lau. You can see that there's a difference between these two guys. They're playing different roles. But like once upon a time, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, male, Asian, 35, get them all in. We'll have a look at them all. They're all the same. But that's what happens with representation. It gets better as you write more diverse roles. You get better writers in there. You get more people involved in the process, right? It gets more authentic.
But Ross, you're a very charismatic dude, man. You shouldn't give it up, and I think it warrants a few more years.
Don't tell my mom and dad. Don't tell my mom and dad that. But I appreciate that, man, because sometimes it's it's just you wonder because who's the guy from the Goonies? He's just having his comeback now.
Ke Huy Quan.
Ke Huy Quan, of course. Like this guy, he waited 38 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I've waited 14 years. Do I have like 24 more years in me?
And you've heard sometimes where he's like, right after that, where he got the Oscar for, and still the phone's not ringing.
Yeah. And like I heard his voice break when he was just like, I did the role, and then Hollywood didn't want me anymore. Yeah. I felt that. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like that's how it feels. Like this guy was just waiting for 38 years. I get bitchy sometimes because I've been here for 14. But he's been waiting 38 years for that. And I was like, wow. You're really holding the light on for us. And it's You know, and for me, I'm just like, oh, like when that phone rings and then I'm doing the auditions, I'm doing the work, I'm like, oh man, I do love this. I do love this work.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes it's a big conflict with the parents.
Yeah. Are there a lot of Vietnamese men and women in acting in Hollywood from your perspective?
There's not a lot. There's like a handful. There's like a good handful. And even if you ask me the names, like, you know,
you don't know.
Yeah, but I just see them around. I'd see them on the audition sheet, you know. But like, if you speak good Vietnamese, that's a good skill to have. Like, it's, you know, there's like a niche for it. And that's why I'm going to start working on my Vietnamese.
Yeah.
You know, but like the representation, it's still in its growing stages. It's like it's getting better. But like, you know, 15 years ago, my phone didn't ring the same way. You know, like I wasn't getting the same kind of diversity in the roles. Like, it's gotten better. I came here as a 26-year-old man, and now I'm a 40-year-old man. So I got like a couple of grades. So my type is changing a little bit.
Yeah.
Before I was going for like Bruce Lee kind of roles, right? But now I don't want to go for those roles because the guys that are like training for them, they're
ripped,
all jacked, strong, good Mandarin, good Cantonese. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going for the dad roles now. So just like the young dad roles, that's what I go for instead. And so, you know, over time the type changes. Yeah, but you don't know how that's going to go. You don't know. You just hope that, just like the feedback, you just hope you're doing the right thing. And trying to explain that to someone who's not in the industry, they're like, that's what you do for your career, like that. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. I'm like,
scary as fuck, man.
I don't know what I'm
totally
doing.
Scary, yeah. It's a scary feeling. What are you doing for the holiday season, being away so far away from home, from Australia?
Oh, you know, definitely give the family a call, but definitely gonna hang out with the Garden Grove family. They're all stoked. You know,
it's crazy. It's just a few months ago that you knew nobody, and you've been here for 14 years.
14 years, and they're just like an hour away.
They're an hour away from you.
This uncle that was looking for my dad, he lived an hour away, and he one of the last wishes he had was to find my dad. That's what he would always say. I want.
And he died, right?
He died just last year. And that was like one of his last wishes. He had pictures of my dad. The story goes, he came over in like the 90s at the age of 60 to America. Didn't speak much English, right? He didn't have a lot of money, but he had pictures of my dad. He was just trying to find my dad. Right, he told all his nephews, he told all his nieces, you find this man, you find him, right? And I could feel that from the way these uncles greet me. They're like, we found him. Like they hug me like it's just like it's a party.
So you've hung out with the Garden Grove clan before, like many times, or just one time?
Just once now. Now. I went down the other week and, you know, they brought me into the garden. You know, they were like taking pictures with me and the produce. You know, because Vietnamese, you got to take pictures of the produce. Right, they're very proud of their gardens. And they're going out to the gardens. They're pulling out like the nicest fruit for me. They're like the nicest persimmons, the nicest guavas. Like, here, take this. You know, I'm just like, wow, you got, you know.
And was your grandfather the oldest or the youngest or middle? He's a middle child.
He was in the middle.
Yeah.
He is in the middle.
What a beautiful story, Ross. I really appreciate you coming in today to share this with me and sharing the acting and entertainment journey. I know that it's not always easy, but the courage to continue or even gone this far is a big deal. You know, it's a huge deal.
Well, like thank you very much, Kenneth, for just having the time. Thank you, Jess, for getting us in touch. But, you know, like being a part of this and being a part of the family, it's all I want to talk about. So thank you for kind of giving me the space to share, you know.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I hope that the next few years, both on the family level and career level, you bring Vietnam closer to you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're doing that right now.
Yeah, me too, man. Vietnam was the best. The food, the people, everywhere I went. Like I did the Ha Giang Loop in the north and just taking in all the culture, just taking the time to just kind of just take it in and enjoy it was just a magical experience.
Yeah. Well, let me know if there's ever any new developments, because this is a very fascinating story.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. Special thanks to Brittany Tran, to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast.